Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we're gonna look at some flower spikes and buds that have been completely produced under artificial light within the past, let's say, few months. But these orchids have actually been grown under artificial light for a year or just at least half a year. So it's not like I grew them outside and then I brought them back here last month and now they're spiking. No, I really wanted to test out which orchids can actually be kept in a home environment which doesn't really benefit from a lot of natural sunlight, which I know is the case with many of you. It is the case with me as well. The only section of my plant room that has natural light is that section, and it comes a little bit inside, but in full summer, the sun is high in the sky. I only get light there. Everything else is, well, it's not suitable for many orchids. So I did have to resort to artificial light. Recently, for the past year and a half, I have been using the Barina grow lights, so specialized grow lights. But in the past 5 years or so, I did use LED panels with success, but I did not keep those orchids only under the panels. They were either growing outside and coming in for the winter and things of the sorts. Now I want to see which orchids can be only grown under artificial lights. And well, I have quite a few things to show you. So if you end up enjoying this video, don't forget to give it a like. And hey, why not subscribe? I post multiple times a week, be it orchids or other types of houseplants. Righty, so let's start with the orchids, which I think nobody will be surprised that are actually doing great under artificial light. And these are the Phalaenopsis orchids. So these have been the first orchids which, let's say, experienced the grow lights, the Barina grow lights. By the way, if you're interested in my current setup with the grow lights, check the description. I will add a few videos. There is one video in which I present at length these Barina tubes and also the cabinet. And there are other videos in which I show you how I assemble my cabinets, where the cabinets come from, and things of the sort. So do check out the description. I'm not gonna insist too much on it. So, about a year and a half ago, I put together my Milspo cabinet. It did not have Phalaenopsis initially, but then I thought, what a waste of space and warmth, right? So I put some Phalaenopsis. These are the worm-growing summer bloomers. So these guys always like it warm. They don't need that drop in temperature to bloom. The warmer, the better. So they have been blooming all summer long, and even now they have blooms. These guys kind of bloom on and off, provided they have always nice warm temperatures. They will bloom a little bit, then they will take a little bit of a break from blooming and start active growth. So it's not actually a break, it's active growth. They will put on some leaves, as you can see, and then they will stop leaf production and put on some more flowers. This is pretty much how they grow. They can bloom throughout the year at any time of year if it is warm. If it's not that warm in the winter, they will actually stop blooming in the winter. If it's quite cool, they will actually stop producing leaves as well. So they will not pretty much do anything. They're a little bit different than the typical flower shop Phalaenopsis. So for a year and a half, I have been growing these guys in this Milspo cabinet with these very same lights in the very same conditions, and I have to say I'm so happy and pleased with it because this cabinet keeps in the little worms that these tubes produce. They have worms pretty much all the time. They actually stay warmer than the rest of my greenhouse. Don't imagine that the plant room gets very cold, but still, these guys like it warm to hot, kinda. So I'm very pleased to say that, yeah, the Phalaenopsis have bloomed and have performed and grew pretty much all of the time. They look wonderful. I love how they behave in this cabinet. And under these lights, the only things that I do not like are the fact that they just point their flower spikes in whatever direction, because light comes from pretty much all sources. So you can see, let me show you this one in the back. We have flower spikes pointing in all directions possible, which is not really aesthetically pleasing. It's absolutely fine, but you know, I wish everybody would just point their flower spikes towards me. But here's where the shade is, and that's where the light is. This is why I will do a little bit of a switcheroo. I'm gonna put all of my Phalaenopsis in the rootstock cabinet and all of these guys in the Milspo cabinet, because this one has a black background. And sure, I can put a wallpaper, I can put a window film, something on the Milspo, but at the same time, I can just not do that and switch them in the rootstock. So because the rootstock has a black background, has the same lights, has a lot of space, it's not a very tall cabinet, I will be switching them to the rootstock, these guys in the Millspo. Anyway, bottom line, the Phalaenopsis have been under lights the longest, and I have to say they are looking absolutely spectacular. So I have no doubt in my mind that artificial light, be it grow lights or just kitchen light, which is what I've been using for the past 5 years or almost 5 years, is absolutely fine for Phalaenopsis. I don't think you should have any issues supplementing your light if you don't have enough natural light with some either grow lights or some kitchen lights. Why not? Now, what I showed you are the summer bloomers, yes, but what about the typical flower shop Phalaenopsis? Well, the story is absolutely identical. So this is my collection of medium and mini Phalaenopsis, which I absolutely adore. They haven't been under these lights for as long as the other ones, but this year at least, 2021, they have not seen natural light. They have only been sitting here. And I have to say, I have no issue with them spiking. Now, they're a little late because in my region, autumn comes very, very late, so lower temperatures have kind of just arrived. So most of them are just now spiking, but overall, I like how they grew vegetatively, and I also really do enjoy the flower spikes that I'm seeing. They're just behaving pretty typical. Now, bonus, these orchids have actually been grown and rebloomed under kitchen lights as well, under shop lights or whatever you want to call them, the LED panels, and I absolutely had no issues with them. I will have to say that I do believe they look a little bit better vegetatively wise, leaf wise, under the grow lights. So I think there is a difference, but I don't think you really need grow lights for Phalaenopsis orchids, generally speaking. If you have the budget for it, go for it. It actually even looks better in my opinion, but if you don't, the kitchen lights or lamp lights or whatever lights you have, if you need to supplement, I think they will do great. And definitely, I don't think you'll have an issue blooming them. The only issue you might have is that temperature drop. And if you're new to orchids generally, and if you cannot get your orchid to bloom, check out the description. I will link you to my how to rebloom Phalaenopsis video because I detail like the drop in temperature thing there a little bit more. With Phalaenopsis, typically it's a temperature thing when it comes to non-blooming rather than a culture thing. Of course, culture might be at work as well, but typically, generally speaking, and making a statistics from my comments section, I do believe it's the temperature thing. But absolutely, Phalaenopsis can be grown strictly under artificial light and they will be just fine. But what about Cattleya orchids? Well, my friends, my experiments are not as long with Cattleyas, but I do have a few of them which have managed to spike under grow lights. And here's where the territory gets a little bit trickier because Cattleya orchids are high light plants, and when it comes to them, a non-blooming orchid can actually have to do with not enough light. Well, I do have a few Cattleya orchids that have been sitting here for the past 6 months. And these are orchids which are, I like to call them free blooming. They don't have a season. As long as they're happy, they will bloom on each maturing cane. So I have a bunch of them here. This is the Lady in Red, which is a free bloomer. She was a little bit set back, you can see in the back there. That didn't really stop her from blooming. She's a very vigorous hybrid. And what do you know, I do have 2 little buds forming there. In my experience, even with highlight orchids such as Cattleyas, there is a bit of a difference in between the genera, even in the hybrids. Depending on the genera that has been mixed together, I do feel like some of the Cattleyas don't require as much light as others. Well, I feel like this one is one of those higher light hybrids, and if she is able to bloom, then I do believe most of them will be able to bloom. She's not the only one though. There in the back we have Potinara Hoku Gem. I'm not entirely sure what it has been reclassified now. Ring Catlianthe, I don't know, something of the sorts. You're gonna have names on the screen. This one has been strictly grown under lights for the past year actually, and under this particular grow light. And she's reblooming, she's growing very, very very well. And you can see there are even tinges of red on the leaf and on the flower spike. So I do believe she is receiving adequate light and she is absolutely able to bloom. Now I do have another Cattleya blooming here, but I'm not going to consider this one because I brought her here for 2 months now. The buds might have started to form outside, so we're not going to count this one, but I wanted to show you that the new growth does actually have a sheath, and this is a good sign. This is a type of Cattleya that blooms in sheaths. If it doesn't have a sheath, you know she's not going to bloom, but it does have the possibility to bloom. So again, I am thinking that the light is okay for it as well. We can see anthocyanin on the foliage, which is a very, very good sign. But again, I do believe some Cattleyas, if not all Cattleyas, are absolutely able to bloom under these grow lights. Another orchid that has strictly been grown under lights for the past almost a year, ever since I put this together. Maybe it's been 8 months, 9 months, something of the sorts, a pretty long time. Vandas, given the lower light Vandas, not the big ones that require the most light in my opinion. Those ones don't even fit, sadly. I'm gonna find a way to test it out with them as well, but not in these shelves. Look at that, Vandas are able to produce spikes and bloom as well. This is the Wrinkle Stylus. It's more of a short type of Vanda, but absolutely, she's capable of blooming and growing very, very well under these lights. So I'm happy to report that even small Vandas can be grown under lights and bloom under lights without any type of problem. Now, I will cheat a little bit, but it is justified. I will say that slipper orchids can definitely bloom under both grow lights and kitchen lights without a problem. And if you've been on my channel for a little while, you know that I lost kind of almost my entire Paphiopedilum collection. Well, before I lost it, some of them actually had buds, one of which was the Paphiopedilum venustum, which is this guy. This is not the one that I grew for the past 2 years or so. It's a new one. I lost mine, but when I lost it, it did have a bud. That was a little heartbreaking, I have to say. But these guys, again, I have only grown them under artificial light on the lowest of shelves, which typically don't receive much natural light. And it is absolutely possible. They grow so well under artificial light. Be it grow lights or kitchen lights, as I was saying, they don't seem to matter all that much because they are lower light plants. Now, this doesn't mean, obviously, like with all of these orchids, it doesn't mean you can put them under the desk and just forget about them. You do have to give them direct light, as you can see, but the intensity of the light is really nothing compared to natural light, to sunlight. So if you have a desk lamp or a little LED tube, a kitchen tube, I think the two best suited orchids for you are these guys, the slipper orchids, most of them, any of them pretty much, and the Phalaenopsis, be them the summer bloomers or the typical flower shop ones. So yeah, these guys, again, I don't think anybody will have any type of problem reblooming them under artificial light. I almost am certain of it. Another genus of orchids which I'm almost 100% positive will work out both under grow lights and kitchen lights are Oncidiums. If not 100% all of them, then the vast majority of them. I grew my Oncidium orchids in the past, again, strictly under the LED panels because I could not put them outside in the summer. And I also couldn't put them on the brightest of shelves because those shelves typically belonged to the Vandas and Cattleyas. And guess what? I have grown and rebloomed Oncidiums for several years under artificial light. Again, I will have to say grow lights, I think, just render a lot more pleasing results. Here is my Hawaiiara lava burst. She has 4 flower spikes total on 2 directions of growth. This is a lazy flower spike. It was actually caught in between the leaves and I managed to break it free, but he's a little behind. So as you can see, very bushy blooming there. And again, this orchid has been strictly grown under artificial light for the past year or so, be it 9 months, 10 months, I don't really remember when I set these up, but it has been quite a long time. So again, with most Oncidiums, I don't really think you're gonna have an issue, even though these ones can actually like a little bit more intense light than the Phalaenopsis, a little bit of direct sunshine in the morning and all of those things. But if you cannot provide it, don't worry, just put a light source on top of it and you should be just fine with Oncidiums. Speaking of Oncidiums, now I know this is not necessarily an Oncidium, and it's also not necessarily an older orchid, but I just had to show it to you because I'm really happy about it. Miltoniopsis orchids, yes, they are related to Oncidiums. They are not known to be higher light plants. Again, if you have the climate and temperature for them, because they don't like heat at all. And the one thing that I always have in my climate is heat. So I really don't keep a lot of Miltoniopsis. This is my only one. I have a funny suspicion they will do just fine under grow lights as well. Now this one you see here is a Miltoniopsis Phalaenopsis. Has nothing to do with the Phalaenopsis other than it kind of looks like it. I purchased it a month and a half ago, and look at that, she has a flower spike. I cannot tell you how happy I am because I really like these orchids. This supposedly is a more warm growing one. I don't know, we're gonna see about it. They're not easy orchids, but if you have the climate for them, they can be much easier for you than they are typically for me. And if you were wondering if you could grow them under lights, from experience, I would say, yeah, definitely. They are not highlight plants. The ones that I had throughout the years, which I did manage to rebloom, but they weren't flourishing really due to the temperature. The ones that I had, I did grow under LED panels, normal shop lights, and they didn't have any issues with the light. They kind of fizzled out in the summertime for me when nighttime was just so hot. Yeah, I do believe anything related to the Oncidiums or in the same tribe will do absolutely great under lights as well. Now let's talk about some other genera. How about Bulbophyllums? Well, they are the perfect candidate for artificial light because they are usually pretty short, so they fit in shelves. They don't fuss about humidity, they're just as easy as Phalaenopsis, and they don't require a lot of light. Excuse Joey, she likes to put on a concert from time to time. So because Phalaenopsis do so great under lights, these guys do as well. No surprise there. I did have bloomings from these guys multiple times throughout the years, both with these grow lights, which are newer, and with the shop light. So again, I don't think you need to invest necessarily in grow lights. If you have the budget, go for it. I think it's gonna be worth it. But yeah, these guys definitely grow well strictly under artificial light. Let's see some Tolumnias. I did recently move these from natural light to artificial light as well. And historically, I've kind of been only growing these guys in natural light. They're pretty highlight orchids. But for the past, again, at least 6 months, I have been growing them here under the Barina lights. And I just noticed that some flower spikes are starting to form as well, which is excellent news because these guys are just so tiny and so suited for smaller shelves. Home conditions, again, humidity and all of that stuff, I wouldn't worry about it. As long as you keep them hydrated, they should be absolutely fine. I do actually have a tutorial on Tolumnias. If you don't know about them, check the description below. And there we have it. Artificial light can absolutely make them bloom. Given these guys, I've never grown under the panels, only these grow lights. I don't think there should be a massive difference. Usually the grow lights, in my experience and in my opinion, affect more the vegetative growth, which indirectly affects blooming as well, obviously. But when it comes to the simple fact of reblooming something, I think shop lights will work just fine. But there we go, Tolumnias can be bloomed under artificial light as well. Now here is an orchid we did not see in an eternity, and when I say eternity, I mean eternity because I have not rebloomed one of these in 6 years. That's because most of them I kind of lost. It's not an easy orchid for me. It's a Sedirea japonica. Who would have thought? Am I right? So my Sedirea finally has a flower spike there. And again, I have been growing this particular one, which I have for couple of years, I feel like at this point, strictly under artificial light. And there we go, definitely can be rebloomed. Now, Sederias are a little bit of a mystery to me. As far as my research goes, they are cooler growing orchids, so I'm always keeping them on the lowest shelves, and they always have bird feathers on them. So that's why I'm keeping them on the lower shelves. I have to say they're very sensitive when it comes to rotting. Stem rot, crown rot, all of that fun stuff. I've rotted a lot of Sederias, even though I always try to pot them rather high. It's just that type of plant which is very sensitive in my environment. So it is quite an achievement for me to see a Sedirea flower spike. Hopefully it's a spike and not a keiki. I mean, it would be very sad if it were a keiki. But yeah, again, I do believe Sederias are close to Phalaenopsis in light requirements. In temperature and overall care, maybe not so much, at least in my warm environment. They're really not the easiest to grow. They really don't flourish too much. This one, I would say it's the most successful one I have ever had. It does also have a little keiki in the back there. They always produce keikis for me. But yeah, happy to see a flower spike, and I have only grown this one under artificial light. So to end this video, let me give you a short update. I pre-recorded that video last week, and look what I did. Ever since then, I came up with a shrine for the Cattleyas. I did some moving around, and somehow I thought, what if I put the Cattleyas in the Millspo? And I'm so happy. I don't know if the camera captures the true glory of this light right now, but they are absolutely breathtaking here. And while I was moving the Cattleyas, I discovered even more little buds. So here we have some buds forming here from the, this is the Bull Lady crossed with Syncorana. It's a beautiful hybrid, very stressed. I stressed it out at some point, but she's recouping. And where is it? I saw in the sheath of my Princess Jackie, look at that, I saw buds. Both of these orchids have been strictly grown under artificial light ever since the beginning of the year. Have not put them outside because they were a little stressed. You can see the little Princess Jackie is stressed as well. Yet again, I don't know why I potted at the edge like that. I need to rearrange it, repot it a little bit. But yeah, both of these orchids have been kept inside because they were stressed under artificial light. No natural light, or very little natural light. And hey presto, we have flowers. And by the way, Princess Jackie, not a free bloomer. She blooms once a year. Syncorana, not sure what to say, but that one is not a free bloomer. Has a very strict blooming season. So yeah, I think we can actually bloom Cattleyas, no type of a worry, under artificial light as well. Now, before I let you go, just because I did receive a comment on Instagram with somebody saying they never understand why people put orchids in glass cabinets and all of that, like there's some sort of zoo animal or display. I've never seen animals in glass cabinets. I would not put them in glass cabinets, to be fully honest. I did see one of these Millspos transformed into the most glorious terrariums for reptiles. I don't know anything about reptiles. It looked okay to me. It looked like it was safe for the reptile. Other than that, I would not put animals in cabinets. I don't know what you're talking about. That's a joke. I was just being cheeky. I know what you mean. But here's the deal. I'm gonna make a little analogy. If you've ever wondered why all of this trouble of protecting these orchids so much. Let's imagine that we colonize the moon and we make our own little human base there. Obviously, the moon is not like Earth. It doesn't have the same atmosphere, same temperature, gravity, all of that fun stuff. So we're gonna recreate it artificially. Yeah, we're gonna have breathable air, we're gonna have good temperatures and all of that. But whenever we alter something, the chance of something going wrong will always be there. And at some point, something will go wrong and all heck will break loose on the moon. You can imagine the disaster it will be. Why? Because it's the freaking moon. We did not evolve to live on the moon. We're kind of pushing our luck. We're creating all sorts of artificial environments so we can survive on the moon, right? Very science fiction scenario here. Well, with orchids it's the same thing. We take them out of their natural homes and put them in our living room, which is a very unnatural and very alien new home. And we do our best to provide whatever they need with whatever we have at hand. Yeah, we put them in pots. They don't grow in pots, but it doesn't matter. They cannot see they're grown in pots. What matters to them is that they have a good moisture and air ratio, very similar to what they would get in nature in our very dry and void of rain homes. We try to provide a good temperature. We also try to shelter them from pests and all of that, because maybe the pests we have in our countries are not the same as the pests they naturally encounter in their territories. What is also true, we don't actually have predatory, let's say, insects or other animals that eat on the insects which prey on orchids. So there's a whole bunch of stuff lacking in our living rooms, so we kind of have to play Mother Nature if we want to keep them in good condition. And sometimes this playing of Mother Nature is very unnatural. And yeah, I'm gonna keep my orchids in a glass cabinet because in this way, they're not gonna get as dusty. I'm not gonna have to shower them, rain on them, because guess what? When I rain on them, there is a chance they're gonna rot. Why? Because that's how my environment works. It's not Malaysia here. It's not the rainforest. Something goes bad. Proof, what happened to the slippers this year? I have showered them each and every single year without any type of issue until this year. Why? I don't know. Ask the pathogens in my country right now why they exist right now and they didn't exist last year. They didn't affect my orchids last year, you know? I really don't know what to tell you. Also, the pest thing. Yeah, my orchids are much more sheltered from pests, or if I have an outbreak here, it's just gonna stay contained here. It's not gonna spread everywhere. It's just gonna be much easier for me to handle it, given that I kind of have to keep my life together as well. So all of these things, yeah, they look very unnatural. And yeah, sure, if you like a very natural aspect, this looks horrible. I like it though. This is my aesthetic. I like glass. But yeah, for some people, this is horrible, and I totally get that. But what you should get as well is that it's not only about aesthetics, or it's not only about, I don't know the word in English. In Romanian is moft. I'm gonna try to translate it. It's not about, you know, this weird obsession we have to put things like in a display window. No, it's actually kind of functional. For me it is, and I'm guessing for other people as well. Also, maybe you have some very unnatural pests like cats and dogs, unnatural for them, obviously, that might want to attack and munch your orchids. How are you going to protect them? Well, maybe put them in a glass shelf, you know? So there are many things to consider here. It's really not just us, I don't know, wanting to be extra and buying IKEA stuff for the sake of it. It kind of has a purpose. Sometimes it doesn't have to have a purpose. If this is your aesthetic, go for it. You don't have to explain anything to anybody. If you like it and your orchids flourish in something like this, you can make it work, do it. You don't need to explain it. But usually these type of things and these types of enclosures do have some very good reasons for existing. For me, they do. They make my life a lot easier. But I also have to say, aesthetically wise, I do like it. It's unnatural as heck, I know, but I don't care. I like it. All right, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me today. I kind of just wanted to make a sort of a tour of flower spikes, I guess, and talk a little bit about the artificial light aspect. So I hope you have a great day ahead. Hope you have a great weekend. Subscribe to my channel for more orchid videos, tutorials, experiments, updates, and other fun orchid subjects. If you wish to support the channel, do consider becoming a member or visit the merch store linked down below in the description. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. It's always nice to stay in touch there as well. And with that said, I'll see you next time. Bye!